All couples have their problems, and no one can really know what goes on behind closed doors. Relationships end all the time, and tonight's couple was no different. From the outside, Herb was patient, loving, and never lost his temper. They were a couple that just didn't fight. What could possibly drive a man to murder and push his wife through a 12-story window out of the blue? Did he just snap, or was there something more? For those on live chat, make yourself known. I know Darren was waiting for us. He also changed his name to Ken Jollins on Patreon. Did he? He did.
That's a big hit.
It is. I love it. And our surprise shot dedication will have to be for Dee today, who got us just such a lovely Thanksgiving present. Some amazing New Mexico Pinon coffee.
And Nicole loves her mug.
I've been drinking out of it since, actually. I love mugs.
I'm not shocked.
Here, go, let's take a shot so I can relax a little bit. I'm all up on
Wolfie's like, yes, take the shot.
Also,
Okay.
I like the comment that Wolfie says she likes her Thanksgiving traditions, watching dad and brother scream at the football game and as me and my mom get drunk. Yes, I did.
Traditions.
I did get drunk. I drank 2 bottles of wine.
Nice.
So there was that.
Ooh.
Surprise shots. Surprise shots. We don't know what they are because they're a surprise.
This one's for you, Dee. Thank you for sending us gifts.
Is this Jaeger?
No. Cheers.
Oh, it tastes like root beer. Was that 99 root beer?
It was.
I like that. That was good.
That made my nose itchy. What the hell?
That would be good with seltzer water and ice cream as a float.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, it would.
Woo!
I know I didn't release any episodes last week, but we got a couple lined up. Not going to try for the 300 anymore. Probably not going to hit it, so I don't want to be disappointed. Plus, I'm not going to put out anything, that's not high quality, or at least my quality. My quality. High quality or my quality? I don't know.
Which quality?
Also, we found some extra marketing budget, some cash under the couch, if you will, and we are giving it away at least until the end of the year.
I knew I was missing my $5 bill.
We're giving it away via Amazon gift card. So what I got set up now for this episode you're about to hear, and the next one, which is the Joe Arity story from Malachi, a great story, and all the rest, at least until the new year, we're giving away a $25 Amazon gift card weekly. And how you can win that is very simple. Just go to the post, comment like always, and you'll see a box right above there. Just put the same email you used for the comment into that little box. It's all automatic. I don't even, you won't hear from me or anything. Every week, the end of the week, so you have 2 or 3 chances to comment and enter into this weekly. Okay, so you can do it every week. You just comment on there, a thoughtful comment. But you put your email address in there, and then it'll randomly raffle whoever's email address. Make sure it's the same email address as your Amazon, so you will automatically get the balance into your Amazon account.
Yeah, no using fake emails or people's work emails.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to see the email. So whatever email is in there, it's going to send a $25 gift card virtually to that email for Amazon. So make sure it's the right one. And that's automatic. It's going to be like a raffle thing every week. So comment on the post is what we're trying to get. I don't have social media or anything, so I really enjoy the comments. And I've been trying to engage more with the comments, and I really like when you guys comment. And for you guys, for our podcast listeners, we are on live chat right now. We got Darren and Wolfie with us here, and I got a great story tonight. And actually, I want to do another surprise shot in a little bit during the story to one of the family members of this story, which I had been in contact with. So
Cool.
I'll do a shot for her here in a little bit.
Welcome to our newest Taco Supremo, Jessica.
Hey, Jessica. Welcome.
Thank you for joining.
Well, I guess we got 2 shots to do now.
Well, we'll just we got a line up here.
We could have done this on Wednesday when I didn't have to go to work the next day, and now I have to return to work tomorrow.
I don't want to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah, Jen got fucking drunk on Wednesday.
Did I?
Yeah, and you do what you always. All right, this is Jen's thing. Hey guys, you want to watch a movie? Okay, let's do it. It's 5 minutes into the movie. She
asked to watch a movie.
She is snoring on the couch. She has done this 300 times.
I don't know if you were snoring, but you definitely fell asleep.
I definitely fell asleep, but you're the one that said, "Can we put on a movie?"
No, that's you. That's you. I promise you. Because Nicole, the whole time she was in the kitchen, is like, "John, are you looking for a movie?" And subconsciously, I was telling her, "Yes, I'm looking for a movie. I'm still looking." But in my mind, I'm like, "Hell no," because I know how this is going to happen. 5 minutes into it, after expending all this energy picking a movie, she's going to be snoring. And then we're just going to go to bed and leave her on the couch like we always do, or the floor, wherever she ends up. So I've got a great story. Actually, this is a request from our good friend and Taco Supremo. He's on live chat right now. Darren, this is actually a request from you. It's definitely one of those unbelievable stories. But we have a good insider take to it. And if you're new here, this is your first time, I put all my sources on talkmurder.com. This is episode, well, you'll see it.
Kind of lost track at the moment. What episode number this is? I
haven't put out episodes in a
281,
while.
I think, right? 281?
You'll see it front and center, especially if you...
the centerfold?
Yes, you'll see it in the centerfold. I also have a few good episodes this week. We already recorded the Joe Arity story, which is sad.
Very sad.
Very sad. I'm also going to put out Nicole's episode of Sugar Babe.
I wanted to watch the movie. I haven't watched it yet.
I do want to go and put some sound clips in there to make it more easy to follow. Nothing on her, but there's so much...
The branches go straight up instead of outward.
The family tree branches kind of...
Zigzag.
Yeah.
They're diagonal.
They're intertwined.
And then enter into the bottom of the tree again.
They're vines instead of branches.
The vine goes back in. Did you ever see Evil Dead where the tree tries to...
If it's a horror movie, then no.
The tree basically rapes that lady, the branches.
That sounds a lot like Little Shop of Horrors.
With the Jurassic Park guy? How did that happen?
What Jurassic Park guy?
What?
Oh wait, Little Shop of Horrors? I'm thinking of something else, The Fly or something. With Jeff
Goldblum?
Jeff Goldblum?
No, he is not in that movie. However, the guy from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Oh,
the guy with the glasses?
Rick Moranis is in it. Steve Martin is in it.
Oh,
also,
Steve Martin.
my friend, my sister's friend from elementary school, the kids that I used to babysit there, and also my high school chemistry teacher. He was also my 8th grade teacher. Anyway, they're related to Carrie Butler, who originated the role on Broadway.
I have a cousin that's in Forrest Gump.
As an extra?
Yeah, he's an extra. He is the, you remember the redhead kids that were running after him? Mm-hmm. He's one of those. I have to show you which one.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's one of my
Because I remember he came back and
that is a great movie.
Yeah, it is a great movie.
It really is. I could stand to watch that movie. I wouldn't fall asleep during it.
Tonight we're going to January 7th, 1991 at 1:30 p.m. It's a Monday.
Monday.
220 East 72nd Street.
Bum, bum, bum,
Wait,
bum, bum.
I didn't even go there.
Bum, bum,
Manhattan.
bum,
Where did it go?
Bum, 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 bum,
What is
bum.
this?
Start spreading the news.
Well, where's my little arrow? What the freak? All right, here's where we're going right here. Oh, there's my arrow. Right there.
I can't
So what
see
is
what
this?
they're saying.
What is this, Jen?
That is a building.
It's an apartment building.
So I said we're going to 1991. What day did I say?
January 7th.
Oh, dang, Jen, on fire.
You think I don't pay attention, but I do. Just because I fall asleep easily doesn't mean I don't pay attention. There's two separate things.
All right, guys, count up with me. We are at 220 East 72nd Street. Let's count up these floors here. Number 1, 2,
1, 2.
and try to put yourself in the floor, if you will. So 1, 2, 3.
I'm getting dizzy. I don't
4,
like this.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I literally am getting dizzy. I don't like this.
10, 11, 12. That's where we're going tonight.
In the middle of the building.
In the middle of the building. That's pretty high.
She's so high.
That is really high. What do you guys think?
High above
I'm afraid of
me.
heights.
I also am afraid of heights, but more specifically afraid of ladders.
I'm also afraid of ladders, but I do not like standing on a balcony or any. No.
That's kind of okay. But
It is not okay for
I
me.
need I need a 10-foot ladder so I can put the Christmas lights up over my garage, but I don't have one of those.
Well,
So the 12th floor apartment,
These angles
B.
are terrible.
B for Bravo. I was right? Isn't that where I
Yep.
pointed?
Mm-hmm.
So right there. So describe this building for us. Obviously, this is in New York, and I don't think we have any New Yorkers here. Do we? No.
nope.
Not on live chat. We do have some Tacos Primos that are living in New York, and I don't see how they do it, man. I mean, this would give me
Too many people.
so much anxiety.
It's not even the buildings, it's the amount of people on the streets.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's where we're going. 12B, 220 72nd Street, 12th floor. And Jen, if you want to read this.
End of loving pair. Hubby charged with mate's death. Wife tossed out window. Oh my gosh.
Jesus Christ. Tonight's story is relatively unknown, but it is a landmark case. And I'm not going to tell you why.
Oh, I was just going to ask why.
And Nicole's a little familiar with the story, and she's not going to tell you why either yet.
So
but,
I'm the only one that doesn't know.
Well, Nicole knows some of it.
I know a little bit.
Oh, I also know a little bit, kind of, because I think this is the message I forwarded to you.
Only disclaimer, I was helping John prep for his interview, which was on Thanksgiving evening.
Yes.
Oh.
So after we were, pulling cows out of the mud, John spent 3 hours interviewing someone.
Yeah. So as I said before, January 7, 1991, 1:30 p.m. Monday, 1:30 p.m. downtown New York or wherever this is very busy. There's a skyscraper. Now this is Upper East Side, kind of a ritzy neighborhood, but still 1:30 p.m.
Broad daylight.
on Monday. Yeah, exactly. A woman falls, is pushed, shoved, or whatever, we're going to get into it, out of the 12th floor window.
Their windows are allowed to open?
I mean,
Guess so.
this is 1991. I mean, it's an apartment that they own, so I guess so, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
It's not like a hotel.
I'm thinking of a hotel.
Not like a hotel. But think about that, because as you guys saw, this is the 12th floor. When I scrolled up, y'all saw that was the front of the apartment building.
So like onto 72nd Street.
So people are
Which is a
walking
well-known
by.
street, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and this sounds screwed up, but I'd be afraid that the woman would hit someone. So all right, let's say the husband pushed her out the window.
Yeah, the penny
He
theory.
could be the what?
The penny theory, like people throw coins. If someone threw a penny off the top of the Empire State Building, it would kill someone underneath. So you imagine
really?
if a whole person is falling out at the trajectory of that body, if they landed on someone, would also.
Yeah, it would
Doom.
hit terminal velocity, which I'm not sure how fast it is, but I know it's fast.
More than 9.8.
Yeah, so like when you fall from something, you go fast until you hit a speed where you're not going any faster or slower
I think
anymore.
you're right.
It's terminal.
9.8 meters per second.
That's gravity.
Well, then that's terminal velocity because it's the same thing. Good job, Jen.
I did remember
Look at
something from
you.
physics
Good
class.
job.
I get a gold
Jen.
star.
I do want to bring the gold stars here.
Oh my gosh, we should get a sticker chart.
I know, I've been trying to do that. I just keep
we
forgetting.
can put it on the towel.
Yes. I like it.
Okay. What Jen read right there was from the Newsday at 08 January 1991. And also the bottom headline there is from Daily News 09 January 1991. End of loving pair. And loving, as you see, is
In quotations.
Sydney on live chat says knew someone would go flying out a window. That, I mean, think about it. 12th floor, we counted them. That is.
I mean, I will say, this is going to sound really morbid, but my cousin passed away from falling out just
Second
it was
floor,
a second floor, unsecured, not real balcony.
Oh my God, I had a dog that died jumping off a balcony.
Didn't you also have a dog who died jumping into a fireplace?
Yes, I know, Jen.
Both are so sad.
My dogs are all jumpers.
Well, at least they're not runners and they don't try to run away from you.
Well, she jumped out the balcony. It was a little Jack Russell because she had anxiety, separation anxiety, and we didn't know she could fit through the rails, but she did.
That's sad. I'm sorry for your loss.
And then the fireplaces, which is why I'm always trying to shut the doors of the fireplace because I don't want our little ones to jump in there.
I was going to set a fire for Thanksgiving, but then Tara and Jean were like, you should make sure there's no hornet's nest because we tried to light a fire and then like all these dust covered
oh my God.
hornets came flying down. Not in my house, in their house. And I was like, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Barbara Weinstein was the victim. She was 56 years old. Her husband, Herbert Weinstein, who was a little older, it came out real quick that he pushed her out the window. Okay.
They're not related to like Harvey Weinstein, are they?
I don't think so, no. But they are Jewish, but I don't think they're related to
I had a Weinstein.
There's a lot of Weinsteins.
It's a very popular
It's a very popular Jewish name. So one neighbor told the media about Barbara, the 56-year-old, quote, "She's an extremely fine lady. We knew her socially. We had dinner with them occasionally. She and her husband seemed to get on fine," end quote. Now, this building right here is in the Upper East Side, or I don't know, New York. It's ritzy. It's where the more wealthier clientele or the more wealthier residents live in this building.
Where is it in relation to Central Park? Is it close to Central Park?
We did the Google Earth.
I wasn't paying attention.
Oh my God. I don't know where Central Park is. I don't know where New York is.
We accidentally drove through it once.
We drove through Gilbert the other day and it was like nothing but cows.
He showed, oh my gosh, Jen, he showed me his house.
Where the tuba is?
And he showed where the tuba would be.
Shh, no, you don't talk about the
Just
tuba.
ixnay on the tuba.
All right, Nicole, read this.
Another neighbor said, "They were a fantastic couple. This was the second marriage for both. They were very even-tempered. He was quiet. He looked refined. We went out to dinner together. I can't understand what must have gone through his head. I can't understand what made him do it." How could he do that? Asked Marie-Therese Maurice, a neighbor who she often chatted with Barbara Weinstein in the elevator. "I left the building yesterday, Monday at 1:30 and saw all the police. I thought someone had a heart attack."
And what you just read there was from the Daily News, the 9th of January, 1991. Barbara, the victim, the one that flew out the window, as Sydney said earlier, she was found, I mean, try to imagine what a body would look like falling that high. That's why we went up that high. So I can really show you the gravity of the situation, like how that is pretty high, man.
Yeah.
That is pretty freaking high. You're not going to survive that. You're not going to die hard off the roof with a fire hose.
No. Well, you think about it as like 12 stories, and how high are the ceilings in between each floor? Are they like 6-foot ceilings or 9-foot ceilings? It doesn't matter. It's not just
definitely not 6.
No, Jen, if it's 6-foot ceilings, you would be hitting your head. You're 6 feet tall. Why would you?
Well,
I get it. 10 feet.
It doesn't matter.
Jen, you are literally over 6 feet. You would be.
I
just
am
under.
between 5'11" and a half and 6 feet, depending on the day. Number one. Number two, but it doesn't matter what number I'm giving. It's not like
It kind of does.
It's not like it's 2 feet between the floors. It's like you have like, so if it's, let's say it's 10-foot ceilings, just for math's sake, 12. That's over 100 feet tall.
Please do not take anything Jen says. Yes,
Okay.
Jen, 100 feet in the air. It says right here in this paper it was 100 feet, and then it says, quote, Jen is correct, end quote.
Laugh all you want. I'm sorry I made a mathematical error in the ceiling projections.
9.8 meters per second. That was impressive.
Correct.
Let's just stick with that.
Okay, the point is
Well,
that
let me
it's
check it now. Fuck. Terminal velocity.
I didn't say
right.
it was terminal velocity. I said that was the rate of gravity.
Barbara was clad in a blue nightgown. She was obviously dead on the pavement. One neighbor said about Barbara, she was, quote, a well-kept person. She was always put together. Her makeup and outfit were always just so, end quote. And I'm going to show you a picture of Barbara here. She's very, let me just say this now. Her first husband owned a lot of not only properties, but businesses too. He was a huge entrepreneur, and he owned a plastics company, like huge. And he owned properties, buildings, skyscrapers, real estate all around the world, vacation homes. I mean, I don't know, billionaire or not, but very wealthy guy. So that was her first husband. So her settlement from that, whatever it was very large. You know what I'm saying? So that's why people are saying she was always put together. She was always, her makeup and outfit were always just so, and I'm going into this because this is, I mean, you literally saw my family freaking in cow shit. This is like alien to me.
We were dazed. It's so puzzling, said Levy. They seemed like an excellent couple. She told me about a week ago how happy she was with Herbert. She had a lot of respect for him, and he seemed to enjoy that. The Weinsteins were planning a vacation in Puerto Rico, Levy said, and spent the holidays making road trips to Atlantic City, attending movies and eating out. They were really running, Levy said. They were having fun. She said Weinstein was a very calm man who never lost his temper with his wife.
You're going to hear tonight how great of a man and a father Herbert Weinstein was. The question here, and the reason I'm giving you these quotes and stuff, is because no one saw this coming. Herbert Weinstein was a phenomenal man to his children. He was a philanthropist. He was well respected in the community. He never ever, according to the children, ever had any violent tendencies. One of his friends, Uncle Frank, not his uncle, but what his daughter calls Uncle Frank, has known him for 56 years. Never, not once in all of their relationship has he ever seen Herbert Weinstein get angry, lose his temper, flip out, especially push his wife, who we love dearly, out of a 12-story window. Never. Here's the thing. He never lied either. When he was arrested, the only time he was known to lie by his own daughter, this is by her statement, was the first 5 minutes when he was arrested. And he tried to make up something, how she fell or whatever. 5 minutes later, he's like, you know what? You know me. I don't lie. And they're like, Herbert, why did you lie then? Why'd you lie about that? He said, well, if there was ever a time to lie, I guess it was then. Then he just turns around, tells them everything. Because he's that type of guy. He's well respected. He's a very successful businessman. And which is, kind of goes into, I don't know if you guys remember the billionaire murders we did
Yes.
That-
Oh, yes.
yeah,
The
and
Richie Rich story.
I didn't. No, not.
I remember you putting in tiger noises in the
No,
background.
not that one. I'm talking about the Shermans.
Oh,
They were
yeah.
a billionaire couple. That episode really didn't get that great feedback. I want to revisit it because I think I could have did a lot better. But that couple, the husband, the Sherman husband, was very ruthless as a businessman. He was a billionaire, but he was very ruthless. He had a lot of enemies. So we think of that like Shark Tank, just ruthless, all this stuff.
I feel like there's two types of successful businessmen. The stand-up guys that, people he will love working for and will do anything for.
Like
and they
Richard
really-
Branson, yeah.
And then you have like the people who are just cutthroat and will do anything for that dollar. And I'm not saying, like I said, they're
Like John Perry, yeah.
not every person is like that. Everyone has their own separate motivations, and it's kind of interesting to see.
Did you bring me a beer?
I did. It's right in front of you.
Oh, okay, cool.
What?
Nothing.
You didn't want that kind?
Do you want the peanut butter beer?
No. Go ahead, Jen. Drink the peanut butter beer.
No, I didn't.
She
What
got
did
it for
you get
you.
the peanut butter? She did not get that for me. You
Yeah,
got
you
that for
did.
me?
Yeah, she did.
You just said no.
She
did.
I got it for anyone who wanted it.
It's the peanut butter and jelly beer.
I know what it is.
Edmund's Oast is great. We need to go on the brewery tour on the bus when it gets a little bit
The
warmer out.
Tia Santa. Yes.
Tia.
What do you do, Tia? You a businesswoman?
Tia. I love that I'm her favorite.
You have a very pretty name. Is it spelled with the capital T like that? All right, let me talk about the relationship real quick. The couple are on their second marriage. They, Herbert, the killer, has 2 kids of his own. The youngest child that he has actually chimes in for tonight's episode. I interviewed her. Her name is Joni West.
Hey, Joni. Thanks for interviewing with John. I know it's not. I know it's a still picture. I'm just shouting her out in the episode.
I'm pretty sure I want to be like Joni because I think it's awesome that she has blue hair and she's in her 70s, I think.
I've interviewed quite a bit of people, and this is definitely my favorite interview. It was almost like she's here just talking to it. I mean, it was so easy to interview her. It was just very personal kind of thing.
Has she heard our podcast?
Yeah,
before?
she's an active listener of our podcast.
Oh, it's good. So
Yeah.
she knows what to expect.
Wait, do I need to go get a shot for Joni?
Yeah, get a shot for Joni.
And I'm gonna pee.
So this one's for Joni.
Do I say? Is this a surprise shot?
sing her for the
Yeah,
shot.
this is a surprise
Joni, this
shot.
is for you. Thank you for reaching out to us. I appreciate it. Surprise shots. Surprise shots. We don't know what they are because they're a surprise. I don't like that this is
Cheers.
clear liquor.
I think we're going to like it though.
It's like Annie. I think I'm going to like it here. Which Annie Live is airing next week.
Ooh, what is that?
I don't like that.
That's like blueberry or something.
No, it's fruit punch something.
Y'all can't be mixing these like whiskey
It is
and
not. Oh, well.
the way y'all mix these liquors, man.
That was.
Nicole is in charge of the surprise shots recently, so don't blame me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to bring some surprise shots here?
Yeah, I will.
Okay, fine.
Just ask me to. Sometimes I do.
Bring some.
Sometimes I do.
Bring some, because
I just got yelled at. I just got yelled at.
I am trying to get good ones. That was cherry limeade.
I like that. Oh, I can taste it
Actually.
now.
From Sonic.
That was cherry
I can
limeade
taste it now.
Smirnoff.
That was pretty good.
All right, so the book we're reading is her book, Full Frontal Murder, which is a great freaking cover, man. Look at that.
Oh,
Pretty cool cover there.
I like that.
Yeah, this is a brand new book. It's extremely well written. She's a first-time author, so I'm definitely going to link this on talkmurder.com. You read it, and it's almost like well, number one, she doesn't hold back anything, which I definitely respect, because a lot of authors, you can tell, do. She tells it like it is, even what's the thing they say, warts and all type of thing. She is not afraid to tell her life story how it is, and I really respect that. Anyway, this right here is Herbert and his wife.
Oh, they look like a very nice couple. They look very respectable.
Now, I believe she didn't send me any context with this, and I couldn't find it anywhere.
This in the 50s?
No, I believe this is the first wife. So the first wife, Joni's real mother, biological
Birth
mother.
mother.
Yeah, biological mother is Belle, and
Oh, she's beautiful.
in the book, she'll talk about how her mother, her biological mother,
She was abusive to her, wasn't she?
she was not physically,
no.
but emotionally abusive.
Oh, no.
Also, the stepmother was abusive too. So Belle, her biological mother, gets lung cancer and then passes a month later.
After Joni died? After Joni was born? She died a month after Joni was born?
Yeah, actually, right after Joni, who you're going to see a video tonight.
Oh, wait, she had 3 mothers?
No. This Belle is her.
She died when she was older.
Yeah, she just graduated high school and she died. This was a 2-year battle with lung cancer. Very sad. And Joni, she was telling me about let's just be honest, the horrible way that her biological mother treated her. A month after she died, the father remarried.
Oh, that's quick.
But
He met the woman a month later.
Yeah.
They married a year later.
You hear, and you'll hear Joni talk about it here in a
How
second.
did they meet? Through like a grief group?
No, it was. They're all wealthy, so through some sort of
Social interaction.
social connection. But anyway, I don't like this Zoom thing. With Zoom, like,
Oh, look at that cute picture of John.
makes.
Oh, he's so happy.
Oh, come on! What? I'm so happy. I don't. What's the deal with Zoom? It like shows you and then shows them. It gives you a fucking headache, man.
Zoom.
Anyway.
Go boom, boom.
So I grew up in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, which is an upper middle class town, and I lived a very privileged life. My parents were married. They got married late for their generation. My mother was 33 and my father was 31 when they got married. She had grown up on a kind of farm in New Jersey with 6 siblings. There were 6 siblings. She was, third. She was somewhere in the middle. And my father grew up in the city. So sort of a New Jersey farm girl and a city boy.
Oh.
And
Just
they
a
met,
small
they
town
got married.
girl.
And my brother had me 2 years later, and lived in a very typical New Jersey middle-class town. And then my father was doing really well in business, and he was making a lot of money, and he had this house built for us in Englewood Cliffs, which is a very
Hollywood, right? Hollywood.
Hollywood Avenue.
Hollywood Avenue, yeah. And your father was. I know eventually he went to, did he start a plumber? Because I know your granddad
My grandfather was a
licensed plumber.
Right. He was a plumbing contractor. My grandfather, who died when my father was in his teens, so I never met him. But
really? Okay.
Yeah. But my father was in the advertising business, mostly in what they call transit advertising. So he bought the company. He was doing really well selling outdoor advertising like billboards and bus shelters, ads on anything that was transit. So
like buses, maybe.
Buses, billboards, trains, whatnot. And then he eventually bought a business.
That was in the Mad Men era too, right? The Mad Men.
Yeah. Yes, I've never watched Mad Men, but I know the show. I know the show, and it's pretty
Don
much,
Draper.
He was doing this. I guess it was I was born in 1961, so he was doing this in the Mad Men era. It was the 1950s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
great show.
Yeah. So
it's kind of trippy because when you started talking, I almost looked at you and I was like, "Oh, he's talking. I got to pay attention."
Oh yeah, because I'm the man, right?
Well, because. But I do want to comment. I love how her setup is. You can see her book there in the corner, and then the brain defense, which is kind of looks like the books that she used kind of for her research. But I think that's pretty cool that she has that set up right there.
Yeah. So she is very interested in the brain, and I actually told her. So this is her first book, and it's phenomenal. If you go to Amazon, you can see the reviews, and they're all exactly how I would review it.
And I would like to read it. And I'm not a reader, but I would like to read it.
You can.
The book is called. The book is. Yeah, you can take that home because I got a signed copy coming. Oh,
I want a
Is she
signed
really
copy.
gonna send one? That's awesome.
That's cool. Wait, Joni, can you send me a signed copy too?
Don't do it. But
Is she gonna listen to this episode?
yeah, she's going to listen to it. But that is a little bit, that is from her growing up. Now, she's the one that wrote this book, so she is the best source about this story. The question tonight that I tried to put forward, and I know we don't know much about the father yet, but very successful, a very respectable person, non-violent, just extremely kind to everyone. How does he get from that to, or what happened? Like, what happened that made him throw his wife out of the window?
Right.
He loved his wife. He loved his first wife,
Was
Belle.
it like
He
a
loved
fit of rage or like?
well, even a fit of rage to throw someone out the window.
Yeah,
that
kind of extreme.
requires opening the window.
True.
You know, too. So, and some other stuff that happened prior to that, which we're going to talk about, but because there was some domestic stuff that has never happened before that had happened right then. But so that's the question tonight. It's like, how do we get this guy? And I'm going to try to tell you, I'm going to try to get you to understand that how good of a guy he was. And she'll talk a lot about him. But how do we get to that? How do we get to throwing his wife, his lovely wife, out of a window? That's the question. Sydney on live chat says, is there a paranormal element?
Good question. No, but there's
I'm
something.
not laughing at the question. I'm laughing at Nicole's answer.
No, but there's something totally unexpected in this.
It was just in the way that you answered it. It was just
That's why I'm
perfect.
nobody's favorite but Tia's.
You are a lot of people's
are.
favorite. You're my favorite. You are everyone's favorite.
Oh, shut up.
Oh my God.
I would say you're my favorite, but then John would get upset with
Yeah,
me, and
that's
I
true.
don't want to like upset anybody. So I love you both equally.
So he wound up buying a business, which was the business that owned all of the advertising rights to all of the buses, like the public service buses,
Like
whatever
Greyhound.
city you're in,
Yeah.
has public service buses. He bought the business that owned all the advertising rights to all the buses in New Jersey.
So this murder happened in 1991, as I said, but
The year we were born. I was not
You were
born,
born
but
in
you were
90
born.
you weren't
You were already
born?
born. I was not.
I was not born in 1991.
She was
robbing
born in
the cradle.
1990, but you were like 3 weeks old when this happened. 2 weeks old. 2.5 weeks old.
Somewhere around there.
You were born, but I was not.
so Herbert Weinstein, very successful, bought all the advertising on transient billboards, buses, stuff like that. And he started during the Mad Men era. So if you heard me talk about his grandfather was a plumber, a licensed plumber, a very successful licensed plumber, I might add. And his son, Herbert Weinstein, went a different way. Advertising. If you've seen Mad Men, this is during the era. This is New York too. So this is the Don Draper and the redhead. Oh my God, what is her name? She's on my list. Joan, my list.
She's married to a very interesting looking guy.
God.
So
She is so something else. It's like silence. What the fuck?
we're just going to let you talk about how I'm not your favorite.
You
but
are.
it's fine.
Holy shit. Christopher,
Jones, your favorite.
honestly,
you're getting me in trouble.
Betty Draper can go. I did not like
Oh,
that
Birdie?
character. Betty.
Betty.
Well, he called her Birdie, remember?
No. Birdie. Oh, Birdie.
Yes, he did.
I thought you meant
Jen.
Birdie, Berty is what you said, but you said Birdie like the bird. Bird. Cuckoo.
All right, check this out, guys. This is I guess this is him, but this is
Look at that.
fantastic photo.
Wow.
I mean,
I can't
come on. And Johnny, when you see this, Johnny, I'm not making fun of this, but this is an epic photograph right here. And I believe this
I
is
think John should recreate it.
your father. I didn't see any context with this, but this is, man, I want a picture like that so bad. that, I mean, look at the top hat.
I want a top hat like
so does
that.
this kind of tell
I
you
do
the
too.
success that the family's growing up? So if this is I'm guessing this is Herbert Weinstein. His father was a licensed plumber and most likely did a lot of the major developments in the apartments and skyscrapers and stuff like that in New York.
Wow. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, exactly. This is from Joni. Quote, "You could not ask for a better father, hands down," end quote. That's from Joni. That's from our interview. Now, Barbara and Herbert, call him Herb.
Peaches and Herb?
Yeah, Herb. They married after Joni's biological mother, Belle. She got lung cancer, and he was there by her side every day, and it must have been extremely traumatic. Anyone that's going through cancer, I can't imagine. And I did read a book about leukemia, and it just is. I cannot imagine, and I also cannot imagine how we have not figured out how to cure that yet either.
Well, I just want to give a shout out while I'm here because my friend's dad just had his last cancer treatment. He got to ring a bell, so congratulations.
Oh, good.
That's
so
amazing.
Congratulations,
what-
Mr. Moore.
So what do you mean? So is he is the cancer leaving, or you said last treatment?
He had his
right?
last treatment, and he got to ring a bell.
So he is okay for now.
He's done.
He's done. That's good.
So
Well,
congratulations, Mr. Moore.
her book is very personal, and she does not hold anything back. She, for instance, she grew up with a weight problem.
Same girl.
But however, I would like to say when I was reading it,
It was more like her parents had projected
Exactly.
body dysmorphia issues, which
Same.
is very prominent in that generation.
exactly.
My grandmother had like an eating disorder, and even I can hear things like things that my mother say. It has translated to her. It is
that
part
era.
of that generation.
It's that generation, that era that it's you got to be perfect. I mean, if you
Slim
watch
waist and,
Mad Men, if you watch
Yeah.
Mad Men, you know exactly
It's
what I'm
all
talking about.
about getting a husband.
And I wonder
Exactly.
if that has to do with the fact that my parents are older.
100%. I guarantee it. And it was interesting.
Your parents are what? What'd you say?
Older.
What do you mean?
They're a little, not much older than my parents, but a little bit older.
Oh.
Yeah.
And because your parents are younger than mine. My sister and I have talked about this because she has said how she will talk about her body in a certain way, and she will not talk about how women look at all to Olivia at all. And if Olivia says something about her belly, she's like, "Oh, you've got a bigger belly," or something like that. She's like, "Yeah, that's because I had babies." She'll just say things like that, but she will not talk anything about size or how women should look, anything.
So, for instance, Joni talks about in her book how her mother was feeding her cans of tuna. I mean, and Joni even talks about. You saw her. And I have pictures of her being younger too. She doesn't have a weight problem, but that perception,
Body
and
dysmorphia.
So she will talk about how one instance her mother would do these different diets like a lot of people would, especially if you're growing up with that amount of wealth. For instance, she talked about going to see Dr. Atkins, the Dr. Atkins.
Dr. Atkins?
Yeah, the Dr. Atkins.
The original keto.
Yeah, original keto. And she actually gained weight from that. And she'll be on the post that I put about this, so she can go back and forth. But I believe she had some kind of thyroid issue. But then again, I think it's more of the era, because she was not overweight, and she was talking about going on Dr. Atkins' diet, and it affected her so much that she stopped getting her period. And like I said, in her book, she'll lay it all out. So she talks about how the doctor was saying, she was 15 at the time, 15-year-old not getting her period anymore. The doctor says, well, why are you sexually active? Why are you having sex? And Joni's like, well, I'm still a virgin. And no one would believe her because she wouldn't, she wasn't having her period. So they just didn't believe her. And they didn't believe
just thought that she was constantly pregnant.
Well, it wasn't that they didn't want to say that it was the diet that wasn't working, but you know what I'm saying?
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. But Joni is going to talk about now the stepmother.
Got it.
Joni had been berated constantly by her own mother, and it was a status thing. So like her friend would come over, Joni's friend would come over, and the mother would prepare this nice meal, but when she left, it was just like, here's tuna kind of thing. It was a status thing.
Tuna with lemon juice.
It was a facade. It was all a facade.
Not even mayo?
With her own mother. So Joni's going to talk about growing up with the stepmother. Now, I'm not saying that the stepmother is evil enough to push her out the window, even though, I mean,
sounds kind of like it.
It does sound like it, but this is her life growing up. If you want a true crime book that's more of a memoir, this book is for you, because this is a tell-all about everything, and that's why it's so great.
And I just got this weird feeling about her from the get-go, because my first impression was seeing her name, which was her married name. She'd been divorced. And this was another thing I thought about, that she had been divorced for like 8 years. And she was quite almost a decade younger than my father, who I think was around 50.
Are you raising your hand?
Yes, because I didn't want to interrupt, but she have a wiener dog?
Yeah. No, it's not a wiener dog. It's a Chihuahua, I think.
I didn't see the head, but I only saw the body. I thought it was a wiener dog.
She didn't tell me. I think his name is Bellini.
Bellini? Bellini.
What does that mean?
Peach Bellini. It's a cocktail.
Yeah.
I don't
know what it is.
I love that she named her dog.
Have them.
Bellini. It's champagne and peach.
I asked her what it was, but because I saw the ears popping up, I'm like, hold on a second. We got to stop this interview.
Tell me about your dog.
Yeah, she is. You'll see the dog.
Bellini. That's a great name for a dog.
At the time. So she was like 45. She'd been single in Manhattan for like 8 years, and she was very pretty, and she was very, she claimed to be very wealthy. She was certainly well off. I absolutely don't believe she was as wealthy as she claimed she was.
Yeah.
That's a long time to be single in Manhattan.
But I don't believe she was. But things just didn't make sense to me from the get-go. Things were just kind of weird. And that was the first impression. And then when the thing you're talking about with like when I moved into my first apartment, when I first met her.
1 second, I need to preface this. Think of a stepmother coming in a month after your mother dies of lung cancer. Now,
so soon.
Now, Joni's going through her own stuff, obviously. She has aspirations to go to the Rochester Institute of Technology. She's a photographer.
Okay.
She's very talented. And she's going through her own stuff, trying to get her life together. This new stepmother comes in, and this is what Joni says about it.
Which was, a little bit after this plastic wrap incident. And, and I think I said something in the book about, there wasn't enough plastic wrap to keep her, like I considered what she was doing, peeing in the middle. I think that, I think we were laughing at us. And I said something like, she'd peed right in the middle of the shelf in my mother's kitchen, and there wasn't enough plastic wrap to keep her from seeping into, my whole.
Her husband was the owner of a huge plastics company.
Like saran wrap kind of plastics.
Like Hefty. This plastic empire magnate that her husband was. They get divorced, and the day she moves into the apartment, she clears everything not even putting everything out. She moves everything to the side, kind of bundled up, all their stuff. Mm-hmm. And she puts this plastic Tupperware front and center where everyone's going to see it with the ex-husband's name on it. But you know what I'm saying? It's just very intentional.
Uh-huh.
I really wanted to like Barbara, but just couldn't. I wasn't happy about their marriage. I thought she was a self-centered bitch, a rich Upper East Side snob, you know the type. She came into my life a month after my mother died, after an agonizing 2-year battle with cancer, and never once asked me how I was doing, feeling, adjusting, anything. She just wanted to talk about engagement parties. She made it quite clear that my brother and I were of no value to her.
That's terrible.
No value.
I'm sorry, Joni, that you went through that.
So this was the housewarming gift. Barbara comes in there and gives Joni a Macy's cosmetic makeup, I don't know, kit or whatever, but it was obviously secondhand. She also gives Joni a purse that was obviously from her own closet. And she knows that it's secondhand. So it's almost like, you're giving me a purse, is your purse, and well, I think she said something like, all the garbage that was in there was your garbage, now it's my garbage type of thing. She's really trying to say, I'm the boss here. I'm moving in. I know you still live here, but you know, I'm here. This is me. I'm the queen. The stepmother was obviously very narcissistic and uncaring of other people. Joni actually talks about in the book that she may have had narcissistic personality disorder, which from WebMD says, quote, narcissistic personality disorder is found more commonly in men. The cause is unknown, but likely involves a combination of genetic and environmental factors. Symptoms include an excessive need for admiration, disregard for others' feelings, an inability to handle any criticism, and a sense of entitlement.
I'm surprised you went to WebMD when you have the DSM-5 on your bookshelf.
And I'm not saying that Nicole has narcissistic disorder, but this kind of matches almost perfectly.
Fuck you.
You know,
I am the least narcissistic person.
out of the three of us.
Out of the three of y'all, I am the least fucking narcissistic.
You know, at one point last year, I got
Which is
concerned
why
that
no
I had
one
narcissistic
says you're their
personality disorder.
favorite.
Because I'm not narcissistic.
And then
Well,
I went
you should
around
be
the school and I was
narcissistic.
like, do you guys think I'm a narcissist? Am I a narcissist? Am I a narcissist?
Dude, okay, this is Barbara. Can you describe Barbara for us?
She looks like an upper class, perfectly coiffed, wealthy, blonde woman.
It seems like she's wearing a nightgown, though, doesn't it?
No, it's like a Christmas peppermint thing.
Yeah.
And then
He's
her
wearing
husband, Herbert, has a nice little red pocket square.
Oh, yeah, I see that. Her makeup is, and I'll put this on talkmore.com, but her makeup is,
Perfect.
Perfect.
She has nice teeth, beautiful jewelry.
Yeah, so she is definitely from upper class, not on the farm like I'm from type of shit.
Yeah, or like hair in a messy bun like me.
You know, as I say in the book, I didn't know anything about personality disorders when I met her. I was, 20 years old.
Yeah, this was I don't think we even today know as much as, we should. So back then,
it was clear to me at that time, it wasn't clear to me that my father didn't really have empathy. Oddly enough, because my father was a really kind man and a really reliable guy. And he had he had a code of ethics. I call it Weinstein wisdom in the book, where I list all the things that he did. Like, he never lied, do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Like, he was very consistent and very stuck to a certain code of conduct for his life. She obviously had no empathy from the get-go. I mean, we went out. So here we go out to lunch, and, my mother just died, I think it was probably, less than 3 months prior to that. And she doesn't ask me how I'm doing. She doesn't ask me, anything that has anything to do with what might be going, what one would assume was going on in my life. And I put myself in that place, and you could put yourself in that place. If you were, meeting the child of someone whose spouse of 20 something years had just died recently, and now you're dating, their father, and you're going out with them. To me, I would be really concerned about how that person felt. I would be
exactly,
saying, I would say something like, I would say, look, I know that this must be really difficult for you to see your father with someone else. I would put all that stuff out there, like at the get-go, like, I am not here to replace your mother. I wish I knew the words to say. I'd probably talk to a shrink. I'd talk to a million people and ask them, what should I say to this person's daughter? I would at least think about it. I would at least say something. Not that ever.
She brings up a lot of good points.
Like what?
Well, about how, the stepmother seemed to be only focused on her relationship with the father instead of trying to connect with the children about their mother's demise. Like, and not only just, and it's not like, it's traumatic. It's not like, any death having a mother die as a child is traumatic. But after suffering for so long with lung cancer, and then you just go and date, you come in.
So here's the thing. Why would someone like Herbert Weinstein do this? There's got to be a reason.
Was it did he have some sort of stroke or something?
It's kind of. Keep going down that.
A mental impairment?
You heard Joni say something about, I know my dad started losing empathy.
Oh.
Like my dad was really empathetic, which means cares about people's emotions and well-being. He started not to care. She talks about in the book where her apartment actually exploded. And I believe maybe this is the clip. Let me see.
First apartment I lived in was in Fort Lee, and the second apartment was in Hackensack, which was just a few more minutes away from Manhattan, but it was way cheaper. And I got a bigger place. And one night at like 3:00 in the morning, I hear this gigantic explosion and breaking glass, like an unbelievable amount of breaking glass. And I lived one building off of a pretty busy highway. But at 3 a.m, it's usually not that busy. But it was wintertime, and I thought 2 trucks must have collided head on. That's what I thought happened, right? And I jump out of my bed, and I'm like hopping over to the window, and I open the window shade, and I see this little building. I lived on the second floor of this building, and there was it was like a 6-story building, and right across from me was a little parking lot and a little 2-story building that had been a diamond dealer and a window shade place, like just a tiny business. And the whole thing had blown up, and it was on fire, and it was just like, you couldn't even tell a building had been there anymore. And I'm like totally in shock, and I don't really know what to do. And I start hopping out of my bedroom to go down the hall to get my building superintendent, who lived down the hall from me. And I walk in, and as soon as I get out of the bedroom, I realize I'm walking on glass, and it's starting to cut my feet. And I look, and I'm now, past the hallway into the living room, dining room, and the entire place is covered like a snow globe in tiny pieces of glass. And there's flames shooting up outside, and I can feel the heat. And the whole place is just a friggin' disaster. Like, it's unbelievable.
So she actually refers to it as Hell's Disco Ball.
Whoa.
Joni and her father, who have always been close, started having a falling out. And this was the culmination because her apartment exploded. So if your house explodes, knock on wood, you'd call your father, right?
I mean,
let's say if he was only 10 miles away, you would call him because you wouldn't know what else to do. You'd want him to tell you kind of, to comfort you and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I would probably call him.
So she did call him,
but I'm trying to keep it together. I'm not insane. I'm just like, well, I don't want you to hear this on the news, and I don't know if I have a home to go home to, and blah, blah. Not crying, but obviously distraught, right? And obviously, not knowing if I have a home anymore. And he goes, oh, okay. And he hangs up. And I thought, oh no, at first, he's listening and he's not reacting. And then I'm thinking maybe he doesn't hear me. And I keep going on, and I'm like, I don't know if I have a place to go back to. Like, I'm telling him, the things that would make most normal parents like hang up the phone and drive the 25 minutes to get to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. And then he goes, okay. And he hangs up.
Hmm.
And I'm standing there like staring at the phone on the wall. And I'm thinking, I cannot believe that I just had this phone conversation with my father. And he's not asking if I need help. Do I need anything? I'll be there in a minute. It was just, it was such a bizarre underreaction that I couldn't even process it at that moment because I already had so much on my mind from the explosion. But at that point, I just felt totally abandoned. And I thought, well, if my mother was lying in bed next to him and he said, there was an explosion at Joni's apartment, even my mother, who I didn't get along with, would have been in the car and at my apartment, would have come to the hotel to get me. And he didn't. And I can't imagine any other woman besides my stepmother being in bed with my father and not saying, why is Joni calling at 5 a.m? And then saying we have to get there and help her,
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Interesting.
So she already notices that the father is not caring anymore about anything. He just killed his wife. And as she'll talk about, he goes...
That day? The same day?
No, not the same day, but close after, a few months after. And then, let's see, I think I put it in here where his attitude about that.
He said, then what is wrong with you? And anyway, he got very uncomfortable. He didn't know how to deal with me expecting empathy from him. And it was starting to gel in my head that he had this problem with empathy, which had never occurred to me before. Her, yes, but him, I never recognized it because he was such a good father and he did everything. He was very dutiful. Did you ever watch Dexter? And you know how do you ever watch the show Dexter?
I know what it is, but he's like a serial killer or something.
He's a serial killer who kills serial killers, but he has a code of conduct, and he's very reliable. Like when his sister, even though he has no empathy and he's a psychopath, he lives by a code of conduct, and he even only kills by a code of conduct.
Great show, by the way.
I've only seen a few episodes.
He's very reliable. He does the thing. Without thinking about empathy, he does the right things. And that's how my father was. He did the right things because they were the right thing, not because he was empathizing ever. And it was very bizarre. So I had this big conversation with him over lunch, and I just, was so distraught about the whole thing. And as we were leaving and he was driving me, we were driving, and I described this in the book, we were on this little highway that we took a million zillion times. And we take a turn to go on the exit ramp. And just as I'm saying something about, understanding, how could you not understand, what I needed? And he said, I've always known what my customers want. And he said, but I really have trouble with understanding what the people closest to me want.
That right there is really important. He'll talk about it as his personal failure. He'll say, I can't connect with my family, and I feel that that's a personal failing from me. So, but the whole time, what I'm trying to show you guys is the whole time, when the mother was alive, the biological mother was alive, and Joni growing up, he was always the stand-up father, very dutiful, like she said, father to the family. But as the years go by, that empathy, that love, that caring, my apartment just got blown up. Okay, what do you want me to do about it? He's 10 miles away.
Right.
Obviously, come over. That empathy starts fading.
It's almost like
very noticeable.
It's almost like he was always been business minded, but as a child, you don't realize what that is until you mature and realize what, a business transaction is. So, I mean,
well, it's something with his empathy. She keeps saying the empathy thing. And I had asked her, I was like, well, did you think at the time, like, maybe your stepmother was rubbing off on him, and she really didn't think that, but she knows something is different.
Right.
You know, she knows something is different.
Well, did it change after her mother died? Is that when she started seeing a change?
It was a change, not sparked by the mother's death, but a continual change ever since she was born. It was a gradient change, a very slow changing until the night of the murder, and then it was completely gone. Narcissistic.
So I'm wondering if it was more of a gradient change with him, or if it was her maturing and finally understanding as an adult his way of thinking. Because there's a difference between that. And I'm not saying she's wrong, and I'm not saying, you know, but there's a difference between him changing as an adult, which is very well possible. You know, once you have a kid, like you know, before you have children, you have your own identity and what you are in life, and then you have children, and that starts to change, and your role starts to change. But was it his role and his own identity and his own head and empathy changing, or was it her growing and realizing it?
You're definitely on the right path. I think I can really get you to where you need to be by asking you to read the book title. If you want to read the book title, I think that'll really clear it up for you.
Full frontal murder. So a brain change.
There you go.
Change in his brain.
Changes in his brain.
But what sparked that change in his brain?
So this is it, guys. This is, as I said before at the start of this is a landmark case. Uncle Frank, who has known him, and he was also the lawyer for 56 years.
Frank was Herbert's lawyer.
Remember I said, never seen him violent, always caring, philanthropist, extremely loving to his family, yada, yada, yada. Joni says something to the effect of, you couldn't ask for a better father, yada, yada, yada. The years go by. They're not seeing that anymore. The lawyer says, or his best friend, Uncle Frank,
I have an uncle.
Says this isn't something. Okay, yeah, he murdered his wife, but this, I'm not trying to go just for the insanity plea. There's something seriously wrong with him. There's something biologically wrong with him. They go get an MRI, and this is what Herbert's brain looks like. And you definitely got to see this at talkmurder.com. I'll put this on there. You will not believe it. I told her this was harrowing. This was one of the most harrowing things I've ever seen in my life. And maybe you'll think the same. This is Herbert Weinstein's brain when they MRI'd it after the murder.
So, like, there's a lobe missing. Like, it's an incomplete brain.
That is a cyst.
There's a cyst on his
that's
brain.
a huge cyst.
And it is enormous.
It's covering up the entire right side of his frontal cortex.
It's almost a whole quarter of his brain.
That's insane.
Did you guys know this on live chat? Did you guys think that it may have been
a brain tumor?
The frontal lobes, and I'm not a freaking neuroscientist or whatever, but it controls things like impulse and anger and things like that. It is your frontal lobe. You always hear about this. I mean, I don't care who you are. You don't have to be a neuroscientist. You hear about this on the news, the frontal lobe. You don't. Have you guys seen the Will Smith movie? I know you have, Nicole. Concussion.
I have not.
Do you know who
Very powerful.
Aaron Hernandez?
I do.
Had CTE. The reason that football players have this all of a sudden complete personality change is their frontal lobe is destroyed. Because think about it, that's the front of his head. Where's a football player ramming, using his head as a freaking weapon?
It's their frontal lobe.
They're using their frontal lobe as a weapon.
Junior Seau.
Yep.
Aaron Hernandez, and I haven't done his story. I guess he killed his friend or something.
No, he killed he was a relative of his fiance or fiance's family, I believe, but he was also tied to another murder But he was acquitted of that second crime. He was found guilty of killing. I believe he was a friend of the fiance or family of the fiance.
CTE is...
And he killed himself, though, right?
He did kill himself in prison, correct?
Yeah.
Will Smith did a movie on it. Have you heard of it? No.
Albert Brooks also.
Because
That's a great movie.
Because of why? I mean, football is so huge. You're going to tell me that football players ramming their head into each other is causing this disturbance in the brain, stuff like that? It really is.
No.
And it is destroying their brain. And the thing I learned about for my own brain is the brain is, if you have a brain disorder, it's the same as a physical disorder. If you have a broken leg, I can see that. Jen, I can see your leg's broken. I know why you're limping. If you have a brain disorder, it's the same physical trauma. But guess what, Jen? Why are you acting like that? Because guess what? I can't see it. I can't see your brain. I can't see this shit.
Herb was tested in whichever ways were standard in 1991, including an MRI. There was definitely something very wrong with his brain. It was certain. My brother and I were to accompany him to his highly credentialed NYC neurologist for a consultation to discuss what the problem was and present. So I started to realize that this was a legit health crisis and not simply a legal defense strategy, though lawyers were the ones who initiated the psychological and neurological testing. Herb had been behaving in such a bizarre way that even his dream team of seasoned criminal defense attorneys had never seen anyone act the way that he did. Like me, they thought there had to be more than the story other than he got fed up and killed her. I was grateful that there was at least one other person who felt the same way I did, regardless of what seemed obvious to most. Those guys were really worth the money.
The reason that Herbert Weinstein has been lacking in caring, and I had asked Jody about this, and she talks about it in her book, but she's walking with her dad, who just killed her not only killed her stepmother, threw her out a freaking 12th floor window. They're walking through the crime scene because he's out on bail, and he is more concerned with, oh my God, the cops kicked in this nice dresser door I put up, this nice closet door I put up that's mahogany and the finest, and they broke the handle. He's more concerned with things that don't matter. And this is days after he threw his wife out of a 12th story window. So they are obviously concerned for him. And that picture that I showed you, he has what's called an arachnoid cyst. And this is a very disgusting, yeah, but this is a scary medical condition to have.
Can I guess? Arachnoid, that's usually what you associate with a spider. Is it something that spreads out and has multiple branches?
Yeah, so if you look at the arachnoid, so they call it that because the cyst actually, unlike most cysts that just get bigger as a circle, a radius that increases, this particular cyst spider webs down into the brain and makes it obviously impossible to cut out. If you look at the photo right here I pulled from the Mayo Clinic, you can see the spider web of it's the blue thing. The blue thing is the cyst.
Oh,
do you
okay.
see it going down into the brain?
Yeah, it looks like a barrier.
Yeah, it was actually going into the brain. Do you see that on the box?
What, the left or the right?
No, the box where it's like spider webbing down into the brain.
Well, yeah, but it just looks like the blood-brain barrier.
No, Jen.
Yeah, I see that.
This is going into the brain. Cysts don't do this.
Right, it's going into the webs.
It's actually spider webbing it like feet, like tiny tentacles, and going all the way into the brain. You look at the thing as going into the brain.
Well, I look at it as it's going around the brain. It's confusing. That's all I can say. You can look at it a couple of ways.
What do you mean it's confusing? The arachnoid is the blue.
It's spreading like a spider.
It's going around the barrier of the brain.
But it's going inside the brain,
into the ridges.
But like tentacles going down. Cysts don't do that. They just expand and push the brain down. This is actually going inside the brain's ripples.
Crevices?
Yes.
Okay.
This is from Cincinnati.com right here. I'm going to read this. The Ohio State football coach, Urban Meyer, actually has a cyst. They found it in 2018. An arachnoid cyst.
He coaches the Jaguars now.
Oh, okay, Jen. I don't watch basketball.
Who does?
Urban Meyer, he coaches the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Dr. Nicholas Marco of UC Health says, quote, arachnoid cysts are interesting things. An arachnoid cyst is a pocket of spinal fluid in the brain's arachnoid layer between the thick, leathery dura that lines the skull and the pia that hugs the brain itself like plastic wrap. Most people don't even know they have one. Unless you have to get an MRI or something else, and the doctor says you have an arachnoid cyst, end quote. Dr. Vincent DiNapolo of Maryland of the Mayfield Brain and Spine Practice says, quote, usually you're born with one, the doctor said. For reasons that aren't understood, the arachnoid layer separates from the outer layers and the spinal fluid fills the gap. Most of the time, these cysts are benign. They don't progress and they don't cause symptoms. Most of the time, we don't even treat them if they're not changing over time, end quote. However, this guy's, Herbert Weinstein's arachnoid cyst was in his frontal lobe, and it was 100% causing problems. Did growth in the cyst, and they said that... it was growing over time. You saw it. It's huge.
Yes, but I was going to ask, I mean, that quote said that most of the time they don't grow over time and that you don't even know that people are born with them. But I'm wondering if the death of his first wife triggered some sort of stress response and it started growing after that.
That's actually a really good question. There is a stress response, like you just said. Joni talks about it here.
Let's see, it was 1991. My mother died January 7th, January 8th, 1982. And the murder was January 8th. So one day later in 1991.
Wow.
Yeah. So this happened 9 years to the day after her mom's death.
Okay. So that happens a few months before the murder. Fast forward to the murder. My brother calls me on the night of the eve of my mother's death. And of course, I'm thinking about that the last time I'd seen my mother alive was around 9 o'clock. It was exactly when my brother called.
Is she drinking water or is she drinking beer?
Straight up vodka.
I had never heard him sound before. And I couldn't imagine what had happened because he sounded so distressed. And he's also calling me at 9 o'clock at night. I'm thinking, you're going to be home soon. Why are you calling me? You could tell me when you get home. And he said, sit down, you're sitting down, sit down. And I said, all right, what? What happened? And he says, Barbara's dead. And I'm like, here I'm thinking about my dead mother, I'm thinking about a million other things. And he's like, Barbara's dead. And I was like, Barbara's dead. Barbara's dead. Barbara's dead. Like I could, it was like, it takes a minute to really register. And I was like, how did she die? Cause she was like 56. I said, how did she die? What happened? And at first I'm thinking they must've gotten like in a taxi accident in Manhattan, like the yellow taxis drive like crazy and, something must have happened like that. And he said she jumped, fell, or was pushed out of their window. Now I'm imagining their apartment, which was on the 12th floor of an apartment on East 72nd Street. And I gave you the address so you could Google Earth it so you could see it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's also a slide of it in that slideshow that I sent you. And so you're 12 stories up in the middle of like a very posh neighborhood, right? And I'm just imagining, like, I can't even imagine. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait, where's Dad? And then he said, he's in jail for killing her.
Crazy shit.
Her father was a wonderful person to her. And that's why she found it so challenging.
Oh yeah.
I have a question that is related but not related.
We'll save it, Jen.
But let's
save that. Let's put that in the bank.
I just want to know.
Let's put that thing in the bank.
Go ahead.
I just
Jeff.
want to know what the brother's relationship with the birth mother was.
That's a really good question, actually. Yeah, I had asked her about that. She had mentioned the brother, so she has one other older brother.
Who owned a bagel shop?
Who
I love bagels. Does he still have a bagel shop?
I bet it's the best bagels ever.
I had a bagel today from the deli. You haven't had their bagels yet. I need to get them for you.
From what I can tell, she kind of wants to leave the brother out of it, but the relationship was completely different. Her biological mother and the stepmother didn't treat the brother like they treated her.
Well, because he was the male, I bet.
Well, I don't know why, but
I'm telling you.
Okay.
We met, my brother and I met with Frank, my father's friend, at his office, which was right across from the courthouse in Manhattan. And he said, look, I've known your father 50 years, and I've never once seen him get angry at anything. And he said, I can't even believe it. Then he said, did he take an aspirin? Do you know if he's taking any drugs? Does he drink? Does he do this? Does he do that? And we're like, no. He has a snifter of Remy Martin every night, that he microwaves for exactly, 32 seconds or whatever. Like, that's all he does. And he said, well, given the nature of the crime, the fact that, it's on the Upper East Side, it was on all the news, it was on the front page of the New York Daily News, like, it's very high profile and it's a really heinous crime, and they're not going to give your father bail. And, and he has the resources because my father had a lot of money. He's got the resources to flee the country. So
fascinating. I gotta find out when Mom comes to visit tomorrow if she knows about this case.
I should come stop by when Renee is
Your
here.
mama's
She's one of my
coming tomorrow?
favorites.
Mama's coming tomorrow.
How long is she in town for?
Literally already
Till Friday.
a week behind on these episodes, and now you're gonna invite your mama?
Tell her to come to
Mama
the Wando
Dukes.
game on the 3rd.
What day is that?
I think it's Friday.
She will already be in Tennessee.
Boo!
I know.
But I should come stop by.
Your mom. Your mom has like this thing for me. I'm just saying.
And this is really significant, as we find out later when I do the actual neurology report. But one of the significant things is that it was pressing on the left temporal lobe, as well as, like this whole area. But that is responsible for how you react to what they call stimulus-bound aggression. So some people are just aggressive, for whatever reason, whether it's their brain, their upbringing, whatever. But stimulus-bound aggression means if somebody slaps your face out of nowhere, how are you going to react to that? That's a stimulus. And it was the left temporal lobe has a lot to do with how you react to stimulus-bound aggression.
Jen, why are you raising your hand?
Because I didn't want to interrupt her, but it looked like the cyst was on the right side of his brain.
It's actually flipped over. All right, so let me talk about the murder date. Herbert pushed Barbara out the window of the 12th floor of the high-rise apartment building. However, I never said she was alive during that. He killed her prior to that. There was actually blood everywhere all over him and everything else, and he tried to dispose the body or whatever. Eventually, he just said, you know what? She's already dead. I'm just going to chunk her out the 12th floor window of my apartment.
Gosh.
So she was already dead. Now, what Joni is talking about now is some people are born with the aggression,
maybe it's
the
Maybelline.
meanness. Like, take Jen, for example. Like, some people are born being mean, aggressive.
And Jen is just born pure nice.
Having to pee all the freaking time when we're trying to do a live episode. She has to pee at least 3 times.
I've only done once.
Some people are born like that.
Maybe it's Maybelline.
This cyst, this arachnoid cyst on the frontal lobe makes it where there's this, I can't remember what she said, but this a rapid aggression where if someone attacks you, the cyst takes over pretty much. And
like Venom in Spider-Man.
I don't watch those Superman
Venom
things.
is the anti-Spider-Man, and he is like a villain, and he's the villain where this alien takes over the guy's brain and he tells him what to do.
I'm an adult. Jen's wearing her powder puff shirt.
You know what? I fucking love Powder Puff, and we're gonna have another tournament in the spring, and I'm gonna quarterback, and I'm gonna kick all the students' ass, and I'm not gonna feel sorry for it at
Yes,
all.
D. John has a fascination with my mother.
So here's what happened. The night, or actually the day, because remember, she was thrown out at 1:30 p.m.
Correct, on the 7th.
And she was clad in her blue nightgown.
Oh, a nightgown.
She was in the process, Barbara was in the process of getting her makeup on, getting ready for the day, and an argument broke out between Herbert and Barbara. And something very trivial, which Joni will tell you what it is. But Barbara started clawing at Herbert's face, and she did that twice. She had these elegant
Were they acrylic?
nails.
Were they like acrylic full sets?
I don't know.
I do not like fake nails.
I don't
whatever
either.
they are.
Well, you see mine, like I don't even grow them out because
I don't
I gotta
either.
use my hand.
I always want to take them off if I have a fake nail on it.
I never put a fake nail on, but if I
They
do
were
paint
real.
them, I do paint them red.
They were real. I don't know. They were fake. I don't know. She had nice,
Sharp.
elegant red nails. She claws at his face. He's sitting there in shock.
So was
That
he?
has never happened before.
Was she the aggressor then?
She was the aggressor.
So
yeah.
she set him off. Then.
Well,
Yes.
but then
But he was never the type that would fight back.
exactly. Plus, he didn't get charged with murder. He got charged with second-degree murder. But we'll talk about that. But
Well,
she did
he
it
was charged with
twice.
murder.
And then the second time, she actually got almost to his retina, because Joni will talk about how she could see the scratch marks on her father's face. Barbara was going for the eyes.
with these nails, trying to scratch his eyes out, drawing blood.
Oh.
And he doesn't have any time to respond. He's just going into that stimulus bound aggression, fight or flight, boom. And that was it. When he was, and I asked him, I had asked him, was it an out of body experience? When we were talking in the lawyer's office, and he said, I knew, and this is an important part too, in terms of the bigger picture. He said, I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop. And that's a function of your impulse control. People think, oh, we have free will. Oh, I could stop. I say, okay, I'm going to leave you alone in a room with a bunch of chocolate chip cookies. Let's see, let's see how
John
long they
does
last. And
not
this is
have
the-
that impulse control.
It's like that. It's like the experiment with the kids and the marshmallows.
Marshmallows,
Yeah.
have control over certain things. And some people say, well, it's an impulse that, if you eat the cookies, it's an impulse that you let get away with you. But there are times and there are brain functions where you cannot control your impulses. It just, it's physically impossible. So I'm sure if he could have stopped, he would have stopped. And, when he said, and he really couldn't explain why he couldn't stop. He didn't know when he was telling me that he had this, this brain thing. He just said, I couldn't stop, which obviously was distressing to him, but he just didn't understand it.
In her book, she said that her father said, oh, I don't have empathy, and that is a personal failure. Like, I know what my clients want, but I can't make my family happy. I can't show my family compassion. And that is a personal failure. All the while, there's a huge cyst growing, and not only growing, spider webbing down in his brain, and you can't drain that cyst. Do you know why? So with this cyst in particular, it's spider webs which pushes the brain out, right? So in the lobes, it actually pushes the lobes, kind of separates them. And a lot of people can live their whole life with this, and he did pretty much lived his whole life with this, even though it affected him like this. But your skull actually will adapt and grow with the cyst. With your brain getting pushed out, your skull's getting bigger too, to adapt for this cyst that is continually growing. So let's say they drain it, or let's say they cut it out. What is that going to do? What you're looking at with Herbert Weinstein's cyst, Joni compares it to an orange size, which is about accurate. Orange, maybe a little bigger. You take that out. Okay, you take it out. Good. Now you got a bunch of empty space. And you got a brain that is in this empty space. You know? Yeah, exactly. Jen's shaking her head. It's going to move around. Your brain is supposed to be relatively stable in the skull. There's a little back and forth in the synovial fluid or whatever, but that much space, it would be a death sentence. If they did take it out, he could either die on the operating table or become completely changed, either like Phineas Gage, you remember the guy in the railroad, completely personality change, or just a vegetable.
But it's different. I want to have a couple of points. It's different than having a cyst that's growing on the outside of the skull, because that's something that you could drain without having to drill into the skull and risk injuring one of the lobes of the brain. Yeah. And also, I mean, even if they did drill into the lobe of the brain, other than having all of that additional space, it would put him at more of a risk of head injury because of that space. If he, were to hit his head, or, you don't have the cushion of the fluid that your synovial fluid, like you said, that your brain is supposed to be set. If you shake your head too hard, or if you hit your head on something and your brain goes all the way forward, it can cause a lot of trauma to the brain. So not just, those factors that you mentioned, John, but also.
Yeah. Guys, if you really want to see some crazy movie, watch that Concussion with Will Smith. That movie's crazy, man. And it's so accurate. And the fact that it's not really well known is because the NFL is kind of putting all their money against it and covering it up.
Of course,
because I'm at high school football. I'm thinking about high school football. You're telling me that football players banging their heads against each other is causing people to have these
to kill themselves?
There's a lot of suicidal tendencies.
Say in high school football, they are a little bit more cautious than than they were 10 years ago. I've seen our football players go out there and they have padding, not only the padding within their helmets, but they wear padding outside of their helmets.
It's not the padding.
It's the frequency.
The padding doesn't matter. Your brain isn't. It's
rattling.
It is rattling.
Your brain in your skull is not stable.
No,
it is floating in the fluid. So when you hit someone going forward, I don't care how much padding you have, when you stop, your head stops, your brain is still moving forward. That's the law of inertia. That brain is going to hit the skull and you get a concussion.
Right.
Over and over. It doesn't matter how much padding you got.
But think about it. But if there is more, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I am not saying you're wrong, because I've been victim of several concussions. But when you think about it in the way of sound waves, like when you have sound waves in this studio and they bounce off the wall, it's going bouncing off the wall. But when you have padding and you have those multiple layers of towels.
No, I don't think, because the sound, it's not, your organ is literally getting shoved against a hard surface. It's not.
Are there things you can do to further protect the brain? Yes. But it is after all the things that we have been through with hyperbaric oxygen therapy and things that will protect the brain.
The fact is they're using their heads
constantly.
Football players use their heads as weapons, which that is why you get CTE. When you do that, you get concussion after concussion after concussion, which basically means your frontal lobe is hitting the front of your skull. And over and over.
Concussion.
I'm telling you, man, dude, we've done a lot of research on this shit, because when a soldier gets hit by an IED, that sound wave, the shock wave is so powerful, that shit does the same as you hit your head on a brick wall. Same shit. That's why a lot of soldiers kill themselves. I mean, you see my fucking brain, it was the same shit. So, I mean, and you see the brains that are really bad concussed, they got like a divot in the front.
That's what yours had.
That is just like, boom, 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 boom. Fucking scary,
and
man.
It doesn't take a lot. And the way you think about football, when you're just in practice,
the pads don't matter. I'm telling you, it's the inertia, man.
And I fucking love football, but it totally changed my perspective.
They gotta stop using their fucking heads as fucking weapons. That's the only thing they gotta do. Everything else is safe. You could fucking have no pads and it'd be safer. If they didn't have helmets on, it would be safer because they wouldn't be headbutting each other. Because that shit fucking hurts. But with the helmets, it's like, wow, wow, wow. They didn't have that shit. Yeah, you're not going to see them headbutting each other like they're doing now. I'm just saying, man. We had a lot of, I don't know, fuck.
Sees cops everywhere, and my father's sitting there with scratches. And my father had scratches, which I saw later. When I said that she tried to scratch his eyes out, like it was right on his eye, right?
Yeah. This is the murder, according to Joni.
He said it was around lunchtime, and my father was like semi-retired. He had some clients, but he didn't go to an office every day, but he still had some lucrative clients. And he said Barbara wasn't dressed yet, but she was putting on makeup at her vanity in their bedroom. And she started, she was in some kind of mood, whatever, and started saying, should I call her daughter, right? She had apparently hadn't been talking to her daughter for several weeks or some amount of time, right? And she said, and I call her daughter Debbie in the book, she said, should I call Debbie? Debbie's a spoiled brat. And my father, who would never say anything bad about anyone, acknowledged her in saying, we know Debbie's a spoiled brat, but if you want to call her, call her. Like, he wasn't saying like, oh, your daughter's such a spoiled brat. He was just acknowledging what she was saying, right? And so she gets all bent out of shape, and she was looking for a fight, obviously, and it becomes obvious. And she said, oh, my daughter's a spoiled brat. Well, what about your kids? And then she starts going off.
That's a dangerous game to play.
Can I just pause right quick? Because that is exactly something I would do, and I'm going to admit it.
But it's so this is like a mixed family, and this is how you don't see Dennis and my mom saying that about their own stepchildren.
Well, yeah, but you don't know that for sure. They could be saying that right now.
No, but like they'll also be here tomorrow. But they're I mean, when you blend, diabolical.
But when you blend families together, you have to expect you can't expect perfection. But yeah, that is kind of instigating a fight.
I do instigate fights.
No,
we know.
I'll fucking admit it.
Yeah, we know.
I am a very emotional person. I have things going on in my life.
Okay.
Do you think that John instigates fights? I've never seen that.
You know what, Jen?
What?
Joni, that fat dyke, I'll never forgive her for not going to my father's funeral. And when I heard that, I was thinking, like, fat dyke, I don't care what she says, like,
fuck that.
Whatever. But like, she'll never forgive me for not going to her father's funeral. I'm thinking, did I even know he died? Like, would I even know him if like I said in the book, like I couldn't pick him out of a lineup of short Jewish old men. Like, I didn't know him at all. And she hated me. Why would she care?
Yeah.
There's a lot of short Jewish old men.
I so relate to Joni.
It reflected poorly on her that I wasn't there to support her. It took me like, I'm thinking, why does she want that? And then it took me all those years, like, it's what reflects on her, because
it's all about the image.
She said, she would never forgive me for that. And then she went on to my brother, which was her favorite topic, because my brother spent more time with my father than I did. So
with bagels,
I tried to stay away from them. She really couldn't say very much about me. And then she goes on about my brother with the same stuff she was going on about when my brother came home upset. And then she says, and this is the narcissistic personality disorder. And that's when I figured out that she was concerned about how it looked reflected on her that I wasn't at the funeral, when I was thinking, like, why does she care? That's why she cared. But she said, and this is her in a nutshell, how do you think it reflects on me that your son owns bagel stores and isn't a professional?
Oh,
however, bagel stores in New York, you are a fucking professional.
Yeah, you gotta be. You can't just have any kind of bagel store in New York. You transport the fucking water in order to make a good bagel in New York. Like in New York, you can't just have a Dunkin' Donuts and expect to have high quality bagels. You gotta have like your own shit together to have a bagel store. Like, people have to invest in stuff, right?
It's serious.
Bagels are no joke, John.
It's serious business if you're in New York and New Jersey. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Bagels are no joke. We don't have good bagels down here.
You don't fuck with that. You don't fuck with that.
No, you don't.
I know people have to invest in that.
You don't fuck with that.
You know what, John?
What? We gonna fight?
Yeah.
I'm just saying you've never had a New York bagel.
Pay-per-view.
I'm just
John
saying.
versus Jen.
Joni.
Fight to the death.
I'll fight you. Joni. I said Johnny.
How much money you make owning a business if it's, otherwise, like you're just not, you just reflect poorly on it. How does it reflect on me that he owns bagel stores? And my father, always being calm, cool, and collected, which is one of his things that that was how he lived, said, and I could predict it. He didn't even have to tell me what he said. I knew what he would say to that. He said, what my son does for a living has absolutely no effect on your life, which it didn't, right?
Correct.
And she got really mad.
She got mad.
She said, oh, is that all you have to say? God damn it. And she reached out, and she always had like red manicured, very nice nails. And my father told me she reached out and tried to scratch his eyes out. And when he said it that way, it wasn't just, and I looked at his face, because at this point I can see the scabs next to his eye. And these weren't like, oh, I'm trying to like scratch your face. This was like, I'm trying to scratch your
going. Exactly.
And you could see it. And he's lucky he didn't, get his eye scratched. And he said, and I said, what did you do? And he said, I just stood there. I just stood there. I didn't know how to react to that. And I just stood there. And then he said, and then she did it again. And I guess that might've been when she got closer, or maybe, I don't know. There were a lot of like little, scratch scabs by the time I saw him. And he said, I reached out and I hit her, and she fell down next to the bed, and I, got on top of her, and I just kept punching her. And then I knew she was dead.
All right, real quick. So she's saying that Barbara goes for the eyes, gets probably the cheek after this trivial argument because she was looking for a fight. Remember, we talked all about Barbara peeing in the freaking cupboard and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Goes back again, but this time really close to the eyes. Really close, which Joni, who has done a lot of research on brain, especially the arachnoid cyst. If you see all those books there, you said earlier, the brain defense, all that stuff, all of those books on her, just real quick, this is off topic. All of those books you're looking at right now that is on her nightstand, every one of those has her dad's story in it.
Oh, cool.
Every one of them. So, second time, Barbara goes and gets a little bit closer to the retina. Really close. Almost, and then she's got these long nails, like Freddy Krueger. They're red and shiny and perfectly manicured. Almost hits the retina. And then all of a sudden, she says, that's when it happened. And I cannot remember what the term she used, aggression, something. All of a sudden, Herbert, her father, has no control over it. Boom, punches her right in the face. Barbara falls down. He gets on top of her. Boom, boom, right, left. Who knows how many times? I mean, probably 30, 40, maybe even more. Just, he said, Joni said... He
loses control.
He loses control. Joni says that her dad told her that he knew it was wrong, but he couldn't stop. And if you really go into the neurology here, he couldn't stop because he has a frontal lobe brain cyst that is impairing his impulse control. It is impairing his resistance control, his cognition to stop. So he does not stop until she is dead. And I believe he punched her quite a bit. And once he realizes, hey, she is now dead, because if you guys, let me just, I do a lot of murders here. To punch somebody to death, and Herbert Weinstein, not a bodybuilder or anything, kind of a tall Jewish man, but
He was older though at this time.
Older at
He
this
was like
time.
10 years older than his wife.
Oh yeah, so 60-ish, older at this time. To punch somebody to death, you got to punch a lot, because he definitely wasn't punching as hard as some other people, someone that works out or whatever could punch. There was a lot of punches there. There was blood all over his shirt. There was blood all over the carpet. There was blood everywhere. He punched her to death. I don't know how many times. He never said it. But then he decides to clean up the crime scene, picks up the body and says, you know what? Let me try to see that this can be passed as a suicide. And that's exactly what happened.
And he said, and then I thought, he said he thought I got to make the best of this situation here. I don't know what to do. And then he thought that he would throw her out the window to make it look like a suicide. And so he cleaned up. It's interesting because the police said, I'm trying to think what they said about that. He didn't have blood on his clothes and this and that. He told me that he shredded his shirt that was bloody and he flushed it down the toilet, which was never in any of the police stuff, which is sort of interesting. But anyway, he cleaned up and then he threw her body out the window. She was dead at the time. And he threw her out the window and then he left. He, attempted to leave the building and, was all dressed to like business clothes, whatever. And they stopped. And by that time, the police were downstairs and they brought him back up. They got in the elevator with him and said, have you seen your wife? They started questioning him.
So
there's a doggy.
there's a beauty old doggy. So that's what happened. That's the murder. So now it's a matter of, Joni says this a lot, and I agree with her. We've done cases, Vince Lee, freaking Canada, bus. If you haven't heard the Vince Lee story, guys, oh my God. Greyhound bus. I mean, what do we do with these guys? And Joni kept saying that too. But I've done a lot of these stories, so I kind of have but I have a different kind of view. But she's really concerned about, what do we do with these guys? Obviously, let's be honest. Any jury is going to say, hey, look at this freaking brain scan. And this is the first brain scan that was admitted to the jury to see. And this is where the brain scan, and it kind of opened a Pandora's box because now everybody is putting their brain scans in. But undoubtedly, no one's brain looked like this. I mean, this is overkill. There is literally an entire black hole emitted from his brain.
Right.
If you go to talkmurder.com, you'll see this. There is literally a part of his brain that is not there. It is there, but it is covered and is completely useless and is completely rewired by an arachnoid cyst. So what do you do with these guys? Obviously, he's a killer. You can't let him on the street because this might happen again. What do you do with these guys, right? So that's the thing. Anyway, you guys are probably wondering what happened. He took a plea deal, second degree. Actually, it was second degree murder at first, turns into manslaughter. I believe it was anywhere from 7 to 21 years in prison. He was happy to do that. Well, not happy, but at the circumstances.
It was what it was.
And then he ends up serving 14 years. He gets out, and then he kills himself.
Kills himself after he's released.
After he's released.
That's terrible.
And that is how that story ends. Very tragic story. And I had put some links here. I put them on talkmurder.com, but
was he just overcome by his guilt of the whole situation? Or like how long after?
I mean, at this point, he's 80.
Yeah, but how long after he got out of prison did he end up shooting himself in the face?
It was relatively quick. And another reason is he spent 14 years in prison, and this was, he was 80 when he got out or whatever. He had found one of those wives that
Jailbird wives
or whatever.
So he got married again?
No judgment, people. Yeah, her name was Birdie, and they got married, and then she just basically stuck with him until he was out, and then she divorced him. So after that, he pretty much had nothing. There's a lot of stuff I'm going to put on talkmore.com. A lot of things go into his case specifically. For instance, this is from the New York Times. It starts with Mr. Weinstein's cyst. And like I said, this is a landmark case. This is the reason why we allow brain scans to be presented to a jury, which I believe is a good thing. You know, especially, I mean, because if you submit a brain scan and there's obviously no trauma or whatever, you're not gonna get anywhere. But if you do have trauma, CTE or whatever, I don't know if they can tell DID or whatever in a brain scan. But if whatever the case is, the rule of law here in America, I don't know about the UK, is if you try an insanity sort of defense, there's either two ways you can not get out. There's either two ways you can be not guilty for one of these defense, is if you were not in your right mind at all. So let's say a DID patient, go back to the Laughing Jack murder, for instance, that we just did. Or if you are held under duress, go back to the Bryce Rhodes rapper, Kentucky rapper. Remember, those guys were held under duress. You better stab this guy or I'm going to stab you type of shit. So those are pretty much the reasons you can get away with murder. I say get away, and it's not really the right terminology, but
you could be acquitted for it.
You'd be acquitted for murder. So those two things right there. And now, obviously he was in his mind, his right mind, as is, he wasn't another personality or blacked out or whatever. But, what do you do? Joni kept bringing that up to me. What do you do with these people? What do you do with my father, who was a nice guy, would never do this, but you can't trust it because he's got his cyst. This might happen again, and it ain't his fault. He can't get it removed. Joni said the papers said that he refused to get his cyst removed. But the bottom line is, if you get that cyst removed,
I don't think he could.
You're dead. You either dead. I mean, the doctors told him you're either dead or you're a vegetable if you get that cyst removed. And the majority of a lot of people have these cysts. A very small population, but more people have them than they know. You only really know if you have these cysts if you get an MRI. They don't really affect too much unless they are like on your frontal lobe. For instance, I said that Ohio State football coach has one.
Urban Meyer.
And he says, okay, I guess I'll just keep living my life. And you can live your whole life like that. You definitely can't get it drained or taken out because that's a death sentence. But like him in 2018, he found that cyst. I mean, there's nothing you can do, man. Like you got a cyst, and it's not like a normal cyst where you can drain it. It's embedded into your brain. That's why they call the arachnoid cyst. It tentacles down into your freaking lobes. Anyway, I don't know. What do you guys think? That was a story.
It is an interesting story for sure.
Joni, thank you.
Yes,
for reaching out to us.
Thank you, Joni, for reaching out.
Thank you, Joni. Thank you, Darren, for setting up that interview for me. Darren, our good friend Toco Supremo, UK. He was on live chat earlier, but he is in the UK, so it's late there. So he got off. Thank you so much for setting that interview up. Joni West, her book, Full Frontal Murder.
A memoir.
You want to have this book at least on your shelf. I told Joni, a lot of people say this to her. Hey, you're a fantastic author. I can't wait to see your next book or whatever. But this is a memoir. So she was like, well, what am I going to write? What should I write?
This is it, man.
Well, this is what I told her. I was like, you know what? You have done all this research on brain. And she's really fascinated with brain disorders like the Capgras syndrome. I think that's what it's called, where you think your significant other or somebody is a replacement clone.
Oh.
So I was like, you should write some more books about that. So I think she's got that in her mind. But anyway, that's the story. And thank you guys so much on live chat. D, Darren, Sydney, Wolfie, Chris, Katie, Missing anybody? Tia.
This was a great show.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Brand new. Damn, the lights like completely changed. Did they not?
Yeah, they did.
They
What
did.
the fuck?
Did you have it on this time?
The lights have completely changed. Thank you, everyone, for getting on. Tia, thank you so much. Brand new Supremo. You're amazing. Thank you so much for that compliment.
Tia.
Thank you so much for saying that to Nicole. Talkmurder.com/join to support us. Talkmurder.com to see all these photos. I'm going to get Joni on there so she can comment and reply. If you guys want to talk to her, she is freaking down to earth, man. And she will definitely tell you anything you want to know. Sydney says, great story. Sorry, guys, on live chat, it was a little long. You know,
That was a good one, though.
haven't got freaking drunk in a while. I just kind of want to get fucking
y'all
drunk.
now know the unedited versions of this episode.
Yes.
Until next time, good night, you lovely, lovely people.